All right, we're about 4 after. I think we got pretty much everybody that signed up in the webinar. So first of all, thank you guys for attending. My name is Chris. I'm the president of GoTech. If you don't know who I am, you've probably seen my name come across emails, and maybe you probably haven't met in person before. This is our first webinar, learning webinar that we're putting on through GoTech. This is something that I'm hoping that we'll be able to do throughout the year. Ideally, I'm calling it a quarterly learning webinar. So at the minimum, 4 of these sessions a year that we'll be putting on. We may do a few more depending on what we get for requests for different topics. Actually, our next one's going to be on a little bit more of a general basis, and we're going to be talking about just better uses of Outlook, Teams as a platform for communication, and then also looking at Bookings, which is a calendar invite program that's built into Teams as well. This is also the first time that we've actually used Teams as a webinar, and clearly we had some issues with it, and so we will continue to work those out. But in a traditional webinar, you'll see us as presenters, and then you guys are kind of, as attendees, going to be muted. There are some buttons on the top of Teams, and so you'll see a chat button, a Q&A button, a raise your hand button. For this webinar, if you do have a question, please use the Q&A button, and you can type that message into the Q&A, and then I'll kind of monitor those as we are going through the webinar. And then as we get to points, we can always stop for questions. So as you have questions that come up throughout this, just feel free to use that Q&A button on the side. And then through different parts of this presentation, we'll have opportunities to stop and have you guys ask questions and go through those answers. So with that, we will get going into this presentation. Again, this is going to be about Teams and Planner. And I say Teams and Planner, but really Planner is a separate product that can be accessed through Teams or accessed to the web. And here to present that presentation on using Planner is somebody who I know pretty personally. This is Rachel Gottstein, who, yes, she is my wife. It worked out really well. Rachel is, I will call her an expert in Planner, but she is a project manager and an expert in planning in general. And she has taken on learning Planner over the last year or so in her new role working at Millman. And so at Millman, she's a project manager, and she's been using all sorts of different technologies to help not only organize herself, but organize teams that she's working on within the company. And so I'm going to pass it on over to Rachel. She'll give a little more background on her, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks, Chris. And it's nice to have the opportunity to come and speak in front of all of you about Planner. It is something that I'm passionate about, just organizing, very strategic. Chris can tell you it's probably the bane of his existence, that I'm everything has to be, in its place, both at home and in work life. I am a project manager at Millman. I've been here for a little over a year. I do have about 12 years project management experience in telecommunications. I also worked in retail operations and in marketing. So I have a little bit of experience trying to get things organized, planning both personally and professionally. Varying size of projects, and I've found that Planner is a great introductory to mid-scale project management tool. It has a lot of cool features and functions. There are other Microsoft projects as you, potentially have an opportunity to, expand on whatever things are available there. But this is a really good one for both personal use and for getting your teams organized. So. Basically wanted to start off with just talking through, we all have problems, we all have issues, we have challenges in the workplace. And ultimately, challenges in work can be anything from, like a lack of a centralized system for task management, difficulty coordinating tasks between team members, insufficient integration between your technology and the tasks that you guys are working on, being able to balance and your resources, the people is often, that, and then just balancing your overall personal workload and team workload. There's a lot of other things that you will find as problems that you run into. But ultimately, these are just a couple here that I wanted to highlight. And um, so obviously you're on here because you're thinking like, could it be better? Are there things that I can use? Are there tools? Is there technology that I can use that makes everything better for me? Um, I'm sure you've thought, you want a more dynamic way to manage your workload. You want to make sure you're on top of your task lists. To make sure everyone's more in the loop, and also learning more dynamic ways to work, integrating things into teams, and then just making sure that as both an individual and as a team that you're able to track to deadlines. So it's important to address these challenges. It helps ultimately just make your team more efficient and more productive, and utilizing tools like Microsoft Planner, they can really help overcome issues. It can create a centralized platform for your task management, collaboration in a team, and then just overall project tracking and the like. So some things to think about as we're going through this presentation is really making sure whether this fits into your process. You want to think about like, what are you doing now that works? What's not working? Who are the people that would be using the tool? Is it just for you? Is it for your team? What's the experience? What are people's skills, their organization levels, work tendencies? And then just evaluate the things that you're using and what could be better. Is what you're doing already working? What kinds of tweaks can you make? And then obviously, what are the challenges? And then as you set out to use something like Planner, if you're using it on an individual task level, that might be a little bit simpler. You make yourself a list. But from a project or team or organization perspective, you'll want to think through setting up the project or the clients or the team, and then breaking down your work into functional buckets or tasks. Identifying what's reliant on what, and then making sure that you have kind of think through time, duration, assigning resources. So overall, how Planner can support you with this is that you have real-time progress displays. There's filtering to look at the things that matter to each individual. So there's kind of personalization in that. You can set internal deadlines. It provides transparency across teams. There's notifications and accountability. It helps you stay organized just because you can track it all. Drag and drop interface, recurring tasks for those repeating things, the humdrum things that you have to do every week, every month, and so forth. And then obviously it has Teams integration, so you can use it both from the web app version, or you can integrate it into quick access and easy to get to through Teams. So I wanted to start by walking through essentially what are some problems that people face, and then, what's the solution that Planner provides to you, right? So do you ever think to yourself, how do I save myself from forgetting these things that come up every week or every month? And how do I, keep track of all that stuff over and over? Instead of, I used to have a planner, I would literally write things down and then you rewrite it every week or every month as you do it over and over again. But Planner helps by making it better because there are recurring tasks you'll see in the quick image, and we'll definitely give you a demonstration and walk through what Planner looks like if you haven't been through it yet. But you can set a timeline to repeat something weekly, biweekly, every other day. I mean, you can customize it to a pretty broad recurring basis in Teams. Another problem that you may face is there's so much going on all the time. How do we keep track of what's important? Is it all great? Um, to see everything, but you want to see things limited by a specific week or time frame. Um, Maybe you're working more on a team scale instead of an individual scale, and everybody wants to see it in various buckets. They want to see it in a timeline duration versus some other duration, or by priority, or by what client it's related to. Planner can help with that because it has sorting and filtering. So you can adjust your view and look at whatever grain you want, look at it based off of things that are just happening right now, or things on a broader scale that are going to happen across, a time period based on what's urgent, what's not urgent, as well as by client, if you have it organized that way, or by any particular label that you might apply to your planner. Another one that we run into is, how do we know what's going on across the next couple weeks? Do I have capacity to pick something up, to take on a new client, to run through another task? Well, Planner has a schedule view. So all the tasks that are assigned during a specific day or during a specific duration are going to show up on the calendar view. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of see like how much is going on. And then it also lets you drill into, all the different people. You can share it in Outlook. It also then shows up in Planner, and that view is available in Teams as well. Another one that we run into is, okay, I say we have several clients. We want separate planners for the different clients or different teams. Then how do I know if I'm having to click through all these different planners? How do I keep track of it all in one place? Well, Teams has this really neat integration with Planner. From the snapshot that you can see on the screen, basically, if you download the Planner, it's like Planner tasks and to do, essentially. So it's integrating 3 different features of the Outlook products into one. So you can look at personal tasks, you can look at tasks that are assigned across different plans if you have separate ones, and they're all under the assigned to me. So it brings them into just an individual view, which is pretty great for being able to stay organized when, if you're like me, you have 9 different client projects going on and you need to know every day what's going on across all of them. So some other things that you might run into in your workload is like, hey, I forgot about something. Oh, I didn't check my planner. Oh, I didn't check my task list. I didn't know when something was due. Overall, you just forgot. Or, like you just need the reminder of what's coming up. What's really great is that Planner does offer notifications. So when Chris has 4 tasks due, based on the screenshot here, so we created an example project for this, and ultimately it'll tell you if you have late tasks at the top, and then based on priority, it'll say your tasks due today in the next section, and then it'll also inform you of if there's tasks coming up in the next 7 days as well. So it does walk through and keep you notified of things coming in, and you'll get that at the beginning of your workday, and it'll come straight to your Outlook inbox. The other one I had noted there was like, can I work better with external users? I don't have a image or anything to capture there other than telling you that you can set up a plan and you can set up external teams. GoTech support can help you with that. So that way, if you do have clients that also use Teams or you want to use a planner, if you have clients that you guys need to, you're working constantly together and need to stay informed of projects status and communication, you can set that up and they're happy to help you walk through that. Another one is that, all right, if you're like me and my team, all of our communication is in Teams. We do so much there. And a lot of times that we work out like different projects or tasks that need to happen. And then it just kind of is, okay, you add it to your own list, you write it down, maybe you forget about it, who knows. But ultimately, you can create a task out of a Teams chat. So when you click on the 3 dots hovering over a chat, you'll see in there one that says create task with a purple and blue planner, the little P. Ultimately, you can create a task out of it. You can drop it onto a specific team. That way it moves into that dynamic environment, which is pretty fantastic. I have used it several times. Another thing that maybe you're wanting to leverage long term, you have a recurring system of doing a repetitive process. Maybe you have the same type of work you do for all of your clients. So you're wondering, like, if I set Planner up for one, am I going to have to go and create this every single time over and over again? Yes and no. Ultimately, you can copy tasks and you can copy plans and use the framework that you've developed for one across others, and then you can modify and customize them across all of your clients, teams, plans, whatever your needs are, which is very helpful. And then another great feature, and probably the last thing that I want to highlight as a positive thing that Planner offers, is that if you are planning to work with in like a team environment with this, it offers you a lot of status tracking. So there's planner charts, which can tell you things. What status are they in? What's the bucket? What priorities? High, medium, low. And then it can also show you how work is assigned across teams, and what things are in progress, what things are not in progress, in kind of a very high level view. And so it gives you an opportunity to see if things are on track, what people are working on, if we're prioritizing our work well, and just overall helping organize and give some high level statistics on what's going on in your business. So ultimately, you're probably wondering, all right, those are all really great features, but how do I get to it? How do I use it? So really, there's two different ways that you can go about it. From Teams, on the left navigation bar, if you click on the three dots, you can go in the search field and type in Planner, and you'll see Tasks by Planner and To Do, and it'll pop up, and then you can add the app to the navigation bar on the left, and then ultimately it'll show you the additional views that we'll get into and show you later. Or you can go to the web. You'll go to office.com, sign in, and up at the top left of the browser, once you sign in, you see the 9 dots. You click on those, and then within that, you see the apps drop down. You'll have a certain custom amount of them: Outlook, Word, PowerPoint. But if you explore all your apps, you can type in Planner there, and then it'll come up the little green chart, or P, it looks like a P, and find it that way. And then the next step is, so you can do it web view or you can do it Teams view. So earlier I mentioned you can have all these different features and functions in one place. There's actually a general use case for a variety of different functions. And there's certain enhancements that you can have available to you if you're using the web view or the team planner view versus just like an individual plan. So if you're just looking for a personalized, just for you task list, then using the Teams version, Microsoft Teams version, there's a little snapshot down in the center here, the black window that says Task by Planner and To Do. Basically, it allows you to write in what your tasks are, what's the priority, what's the due date, and then if you want to take that a step further and kind of create an individualized plan, you can create your own planner with buckets and some additional features, but it's still just as at an individual level. You can create a plan across teams in Teams. It looks like the black screens here, the black mode views. It'll ask you to create a new list or plan. You can create it in a specific environment or team if you have several. And then it shows up with the buckets and whatnot, and you can assign to different team members. But it is just a blank template, a blank plan. So you'll have to build it out whatever way that you want to use it. To get really the full features and benefits, you really would benefit from starting in the web view. What happens when you go to the web view is you'll go to the hub, which is kind of the image on the right. And from the hub, you can create a new plan. And the first thing that pops up is that second screen where it says New Plan. And there's some templates. Are you more of a technology-based company? Then maybe you're going to want something that's a software development framework. Are you doing consulting, or do you work on client projects, or what's the type of work, or how do you want to organize the work? It gives you some different options. A blank plan is just going to let you build it out however you want. And then you can work through the project management plan. It'll do it in phases of like initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and closing. Software development is going to be very agile based, where it's, things that are in the backlog to do, things that are in process, things that are blocked and closed. So it creates the buckets for you. But if you start that way, then you kind of can have a framework. And then once you kind of get familiar with it, you can always, in future versions, use the blank plan. So also wanted to give Chris an opportunity to step in here, because I know that they're based on how things are set up from an administrative perspective on the back end. He may have some recommendations or want to add some context at this point.
Yeah, so some of you are using Teams in a variety of ways, either just for basic chat or a few other more advanced tasks within Teams. One of the things that we probably haven't done a very good job with educating our clients on is how to use Teams within Teams. When we set up your Microsoft environments, there is a default team that's going to show up. And so if you click on Teams, the Teams button in Teams, you will see your organization name, and that's the default team. And everybody in your organization is a member of that team. So if you were going to work on a project and you wanted to create the planner project for the entire company, that would be a simple way to use that existing team to create that project across the entire company. If you want to break it down into a more organized or limited capacity for people that are within the team, we can help you create multiple different teams within the organization. So for instance, it could be an accounting team or it could be a management team. And we can then put the people that you want to have access to that team as members. We're actually going to go through that a little bit more in our next webinar series specifically on Teams. But in the meantime, feel free to reach out to support. Myself, Jim, or John can help with creating those teams for you, naming them properly, and getting the people, members of that team in there who you want to have access to things. Also remember too that with Teams, we can have external users. So if you have clients, other business clients that are utilizing Teams and you want to collaborate on a project with them, you can add those external users, or we can add those external users for you, and they can be part of that team as well, and also then be part of that project. And they'll get the same reminders and emails and tasks as if your internal users would have.
Awesome. So I think then what our next step is to kind of demo this out, and then whatever questions, if there are any questions, we can kind of walk through those. So I think I'm going to switch the screen share over to Chris so he can get the, I think, do you want to start with the web view or the Teams view?
I'll go to the web view.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to kind of talk through, again, this is the hub view. So once you go to office.com and you go to planner, this is the initial view that you'll have. You can pin your priority projects or active projects up at the top. It shows them again at the top of your screen, but then also in the left navigation bar, it splits them out to those that are pinned and then all of your projects. So if you have a lot going on, it helps you sort them out. So you'll go from here, you can click into, today we're going to do the planner webinar demo. So we will click into that and it'll take you up to the initial view. And the initial view is a board view. Board view is basically, they're different buckets. Each bucket is a phase of work. It's maybe a process step. It's a client, a team, or department. Depending on if you start with a blank planner or if you start with one of those template options, it's going to set it up differently. So in this case, we chose a project management plan. So the phases of work, or the buckets, are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling. And as our project progresses, we will move things potentially, well, in this case, we wouldn't move things. So everything will be within its bucket based on the phase of work. And as you complete things, he opened up the drop down. It'll show the completed tasks in a roll up, and then you can go and see all the different tasks. You can add more buckets. So if you scroll to the right on the screen here, it should give you an option over there to add a new bucket. So if there are other things that you need to do, you can click it, type in the name of the new bucket that you want, And there you go. Now you can start adding tasks to this new bucket. You can add the tasks right there, doing a thing, set a due date, and assign the task directly to people. And then you just click Add Task, and then it's going to pop in there. Now, there are added features and ways that you can use this. If you go ahead and click on that task 1, it'll open up what we call, they're called cards. You can click the 3 dots. You have 2 options. So if you click on the actual thing, it opens it up as you see here, and then it gives you additional options. You can add labels, you can move the bucket that it's in, what's the progress, what's the priority. You can determine start dates and end dates. And then you can also set whether it's a repeating task or it can be just a one-time task. There's custom views with that, like we talked about. You can type in notes if you want to add details, and you can create a checklist item. So if your task is actually a customer deliverable, maybe you're going to need to do 5 things to be able to get that out the door for the client. Or maybe you do specific things. You're gonna want to list them out, and you can add quite a number of different checklist items. You can show them on the main card, or you can have it collapse where you only see it when you open up the thing. If you add comments, then it will be initially it'll be shared just with those who are assigned on that task. You can write a comment, hit send, and what's great is if your plan is tied to Teams, it will also create an Outlook group for you, and then it'll show up in your Outlook inbox. So from your inbox, you'll scroll down to the bottom and you'll see a section that says groups, and it'll show up in there. Other things, you can add attachments here. Those do fall into then your SharePoint site for this particular plan or team. And then it'll make like suggested attachments if it thinks it's understanding the topic, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But all of that falls into this card. And ultimately, like each card is like a task or a deliverable or maybe like a phase of work or a work product. So other things that I want to touch on, Chris had hit the 3 dots, and you can, from the 3 dots, also assign labels. That's where you can copy the task, or you can copy a link if you want to share it to a Teams environment. And, hey, I went and I did this thing, or if you want to move it or delete it. Other thing that he dropped in there for a second were labels. Labels are really great. I think that you can have up to 26 labels, and right now they're just based on color. But if you click on the label itself, um, I think you have to click into the task actually. So you can minimize them so you just see the color. But if you click in here, there you go. We can edit the label to say whatever we want. So if we wanted it to be client A, and we wanted to have some sort of differentiation between our clients, we could do that. So then everything that was associated with client A, I would add a label, and they'll all be red. Everything for client A will be red. So you can define it across clients, or you can do things like assigning it across teams, like if something is for accounting versus something being for your finance, I don't know, your admin team, you can define them that way. So you can figure out ways of like how to organize it and how to have highlights through the labels. So they help classify the work. Maybe they classify a team or a department or a client as a couple of suggestions. Um, Obviously, within the cards, progress dictates if something is started, ongoing, or closed. The priority will tell you the urgency of tasks. And then I will highlight, if you, from this main screen, only put the due date, like Chris has shown there, the 2/2, if you create the task here from this screen and then move on with your day, when you look at other views, it's only going to show that task on the date of 2/2. So if something is a longer duration, if it's not just a 1 day thing, if it's something that, hey, we're going to be working on this for 3 weeks, then you for sure will want to enter into the card and put the start date in, so that way you have the full duration of your target start and end dates. Other things, if you scroll back left, so we can kind of take a look at how we had played with and assigned a couple tasks. And so just so you can kind of see what the views look like, where you see the exclamation marks or the alarm bell, those are urgent and important tasks, whereas those that don't have anything are just medium level of importance. If something was a low task, it would have a down arrow. You can tell what is in progress because you'll see the half circle, half filled in circle, the blue. That tells you that those are actively being worked on. And then you'll see over on the right under monitoring and control a task that has the looping arrows. Obviously, that's a recurring task. Those are recurring tasks. So you'll see those if Chris, you were to mark one of those complete, um, you can click the button. Yeah. Then another one will pop up. So he had set the duration, I think like biweekly maybe, for that. When you complete it, the next one popping up 2 weeks later. So the completed task will drop below and it'll create a new task for the next iteration and it'll automatically set the date. If you go up to the top navigation pane and click on grid, so grid view is just seeing all the tasks in order, and it's just a different view for people that might be easier for some to kind of see everything in a list view versus in the different like phases of work in this case. But it still communicates all the same information. It's also a great way if you're early in the phases and you just want to start listing out the things that you have to do. Sometimes it's great to just be kind of like your brain dump, pencil paper type. Let's just get them all listed and then we can define them. And then it becomes a little bit easier going back to the board view. One last time for me, Chris. Then you can actually, if I put something in the wrong spot, let's just pick a task and then you can click it and drag it over into another bucket. And now it's going to be moved over into that bucket. So it's really easy to move things between the different buckets, however they're defined. If you go up to the chart view next, that's what we talked about, where it's going to show you the status of things. Gray is not in progress, blue is in progress, red is late, and green is complete. So it's going to tell you the ratio of those that are assigned that have something indicated. If there's dates, it'll tell you the status. Or if it's not in progress or in progress, you can look at it by bucket, by priority. And if you scroll down, it shows you how things are assigned by members. And then on the right, it gives you all the tasks by the phases, similar to the bucket view. So it gives you a lot of ways if you need to add something there, you can do it that way too. And then if we go up to the schedule view, this is where you can see things in a calendar view. If you have a lot of tasks, if there's 10 or 15 tasks, it's only going to show the first two. But if you go to today's date and you click the +2, Chris, down underneath, there you go. Then it's going to bring up a view of all the tasks for the day. And then, like he showed you, you can actually click on it and it's going to open it up in that card view, either from the main view. And then you can also assign new tasks. It'll show you your recurring tasks. So it's a great way to look at future or current work in the scope of everything that's going on. So one more thing I wanted to look through is if you are looking in the top right navigation pane, we've got the filters and it says group by. Let's go back to board view really quick if you don't mind. It's easiest to see here. So if you go to group by first, click down. So we can group things by who it's assigned to, the progress, the due date. So if you click on any of those, it's going to change the view. So it's going to be right now, who's assigned what work, how much is unassigned, and it could help you balance the load, resource management here. You can click into another one just as an example. Okay, how much do we have in progress? How much do we not have? Okay, just gives you different viewpoints. And this may be useful for people if there's different things that matter to different people in the organization based on the role that you have. So this just gives you an opportunity to see things in your context, in your universe, what matters to you. So if you also click into filters at the top there, this is where I was saying, like, you can look at things and only look at what's late or what's due today, this week, same with, you can look at things based on priority. What do I have that's urgent? What are the things I need to get done? You'll have to unclick the other filters to if there's limitations between them or not similarities between tasks. So you'll want to clear them in between different views, which you can do there at the top. So this is, again, just other ways to view the same information based on what's important to you as the user. And I think the last thing from the web view is looking at the notifications. So if you go to the three dots in the top center there, you can look at, I'll pause here for a second. So you can do conversation, which takes you over to Teams. You can look at members, which is who's assigned in this. Files are going to be, you can drop files like we had shared, you can have attachments. This will take you to, I think, the OneDrive or the SharePoint site and all the files where they are. SharePoint, okay. Yeah, so it'll take you to SharePoint where all the files are going to be stored. Notebook is OneNote, so it'll automatically create a OneNote that's associated with this, and you can put OneNote links in specific tasks if you need more detailed notes. And then Sites is going to take you to SharePoint. So going down, though, it gives you the ability, if you want to export the plan and you need to see it in an Excel view, you can do that, and it'll take it out and it'll show you all the information in kind of a list view. You can copy the link, share it elsewhere, but ultimately what I wanted to touch on was plan settings. So going in here, if you go to notifications, obviously you can change the views, but there's a couple options here. So when you click that first send email to the group when a task is assigned or completed, most of the teams that I work with don't prefer that checked because that means every time the status or something is commented on or there's some sort of change, it's going to send an email to your inbox. Now, if you have a big team and you have a lot of people working within this plan, you're going to get a lot of notifications, which may be good, but it may also be a little bit cumbersome and a little too much. So it's up to you if that makes sense, but definitely in the second section there, it will automatically set it up such that if someone assigns you a task, that you're going to get a notification. And then if you have things that are late, due today, or coming up in the next 7 days, it will send you that email that we talked about earlier in the presentation. So you can change those settings. However, those are really useful for the kind of dynamic reminders to keep things moving and on track. Group is just if you need to change, if it's a private team or a public one, and then if you want to set a specific description across the team. It's also where you go if you were wanting to delete this group if there was something that you no longer needed. And I think that those are kind of the key highlights. I think we can move over to the Teams view unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on here, Chris.
I just want to start with back to how to access this from the web. So when you are wanting to get to the web version of a planner, if you just go to office.com, and most people, if they open it in their Edge browser, it'll probably automatically log you into office.com. If it doesn't, just use the sign feature. And then you want to click those 9 dots on top. Once you get to here, if you don't have Planner listed, you can go to Explore all your apps, and that will open up another view. And you should then be able to find Planner in this long list of things that pops up. And there it is at the bottom. And click there. You will have the option too to pin that. And I clicked too fast to show you. But if I go back to that view, there's 3 dots here. Actually, just automatically pin it. I think once you click on it the first time, I believe it will pin it to your 3 dots and add it in here for you. But that's how you get to Planner from the web view if you don't have it in there. I also dropped the direct link to Planner web in the chat, which is just tasks.office.com.
If I can add one more thing here, if you go up to the 3 dots in your settings menu up at the top right, though, Nope, sorry, the three
on the
dots in
plan?
the web browser. The web browser. About
Here?
adding this app as its own. Yeah,
Oh,
if
yeah, see
you
that.
do apps and you can install this site as an app, and then that will basically mean it'll add something like you can add it to your desktop, and if you click on it, it'll literally directly open that, so you don't have to go through all the steps in future versions, which is what I've done, and I've pinned it to my menu bar. Super helpful if you're in there every day like I am. Okay, sorry.
And you want to go to the Teams view?
Yeah, if we want to just take 3 minutes to kind of show them that view, if you're okay with it.
Sharing Teams in Teams. Well, this should be interesting. Okay.
Oh, yeah, good call.
All right.
Okay, so like we mentioned at the beginning, over on the left menu bar, if you go to the three dots at the bottom, the navigation pane, if Planner won't naturally show up there, so you'll want to search for Planner, and it's going to say Task by Planner and To Do. You would click on that, and it'll take you over to the screen that you already see here, which is My Tasks is a general list of tasks that we talked about. That's individual. You can create a specific task. You can set a priority. You can put checklist items in there and a due date. That's all you get. It's not going to notify you in email. You're going to have to go in here to look at it. But it's really helpful to kind of keep track of those ad hoc random things that you might have that you need to work on. And then Assign to Me, if you go down to that one, those are all the things across the planner that show up in here in one spot. And actually, if you click on flagged emails as well, if you guys flag a lot of emails, those are going to show up in here as well. So it brings all of these different places and things that you use for tracking and organizing into one space. Planned just puts it in a calendar view of all the things that you have with a date assigned to it. Important, again, filtering what's important, what did you highlight as urgent and important. And then it'll show you your shared plans down at the bottom. So we would go to Planner Webinar Demo, and it'll take us straight to the team plan, and it'll automatically show up in the list view. But again, if you go up to the top right, it does give you the board and charts and schedule views, so you can see it. And Chris has his in dark mode, so obviously it looks a little bit different, but really it's just the same. And if you want to create a new list or plan out of here, like we talked about there at the bottom left of the screen, it's new list or plan. And then you'll give it a name, and you're going to choose, are you creating it in My Tasks, or is it going to go to a specific team? Now, if you create it in My Tasks, it's going to have the limited features like the general task list does. Whereas if you put it into a team, then you're going to have the full dynamic features of Planner. Let's see here. I think.
You want to go through just creating a new team in the web view, just briefly?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So up at the top left, you have the option for new plan. You'll hit plus, and then that's where I was saying you've got all these templates for different views. We showed you the project management one, which again, it was in the phases of like the project management cycle. If you do any of the other ones, I don't know, like a business plan is certainly more for like you're developing a business and you're creating, and then the simple plan is going to just do more in an agile style of like what's in our backlog, what's up next, what's in progress, which certainly you can do. And you can change the names of those things if you're like, what's a backlog? It's, you know. And then if you have more software-based stuff, then the software option is good. And then the blank plan, you feel free if you want to create one there, you put your title in. You'll have to add it to an existing group. You can have more than one plan in an existing group. And then in this case, it's just urgent, important, medium, and low.
And you can see when I created the plan, I chose my team, which was GoTech support. It automatically added everybody that's part of that team to the plan. And that's the importance of wanting to create the teams specific to the group of people that you want to do a project with.
Yep. And if you click down in members, I'm sure you have to, you can like see a full list of those people to add and or remove if you're an admin. And in this case, I think you are the admin. So
yes. And it's easy to, if we do create specific teams for you and you want to add somebody to that after the fact, as long as you're the person that created that team or has the ownership of that team, you can add more people to it. So down the road, you realize, hey, we need to add this other person. You just go to members, you type in their name, it'll pop up, you add them, and they're now part of that team.
Yeah.
While we're here, Rachel, I just have one question that came through. And this is a project management term, so I am going to read. Unless you want to read it, if you click the Q&A, Ron asked a question about the Kanban view.
Kanban board. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what that is, so I will let you take that one.
Yeah, so it is a Kanban view. So it follows the Japanese kind of methodology of how to run projects. So that it's essentially the same thing. So Microsoft, in creating this tool, wanted to create something that allows for users to use it for any type of environment, whether it be based on different methodologies. So it's kind of an introductory of, because there's a next step. And actually something I should mention is that there are enhancements. Right now it's Microsoft Project for the Web, but they're actually this spring going to be merging the two, Planner and Microsoft for the Web, together. And it's a subscription-based change that they're making. But ultimately, it'll change a few features in Planner, but not much, and then give you added functionality. But that will also give you kind of a waterfall view if you were to use the higher subscription. So you'll get the Kanban view here, or you can have like the grid view. And then yeah, and I find that the Kanban board is, for me, that's where I spend most of my time. It's just easier to see everything based in the buckets of the workflow. I know that like a traditional Kanban view, I feel like they do the backlog in progress, more of that style thinking. Because of the type of work that I do, that doesn't work for me, but you will know best for yourselves, like what makes sense for how to set it up and what buckets matter.
Yeah, great. I also make a note too that feel free to start playing around with Planner. Create plans. If you need to have us create some teams for you to set up initially, we could definitely do that for you by just sending an email to support@gotechits.com. Also know that when you create these plans, especially when you're starting to learn it, if you're like, wow, this didn't turn out the way I wanted to and I'm done with it, I want to delete it, you actually can't delete the plans. That's just a Microsoft thing. So when it comes to the point of you're saying, I'm done with this plan, I don't need it anymore, just send us an email and we can log in and on the back end delete that plan for you and it will disappear from your view.
I saw one more question from Ron about Kanban being viewed across projects. Unfortunately, right now it is just in on a per project basis. So to get that specific view, you would definitely need to look at it on a one-off, because I believe even if you're looking at things that are just like assigned to you, it just shows it in like a list view.
Does the project online paid version let you go across projects?
Well, what that allows is you can roll up certain functions and features. They have what they call a roadmap view. And the roadmap is where you can pull in certain key things. You really, like, it's not meant to show like every task on a project all in one space. It's meant to be like, how are we overall tracking across all these things? And it is more in a waterfall view than a Kanban view.
Right. Anything else you want to add before we go to more questions?
I think that covers most everything from this perspective. Like I said, there are some changes coming, but they sound like all really good enhancements, things that minor frustrations of things I've wanted to improve or I'd like to see in Planner that are in Project for the Web. So I'm really happy to see that they're making that change. It sounds like it's coming yet later this spring in Teams, and then for the web view, I think later in the year. So more will be coming on that. But if people, after viewing this, I know it's being recorded and going to be distributed out, I think, as well, right? But if there are other questions that come up, to reach out to you, and obviously you have a direct access to me, so happy to continue helping where I can.
Yes, because that's our most favorite thing to do is get home from work and discuss more
and talk about work.
Things. Yes.
Yeah.
So, great. As Rachel mentioned, if you have any questions about setting up the planning, setting up the teams, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you get that going. It is a learning curve because there's a lot to what Planner can do. So it's just going to take time to kind of dig in and play around with it. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A. We can take those really quick before we drop off. But otherwise, I think this wraps up our presentation. We'll just wait a couple of minutes here for any additional questions that might come in. I will note that, like I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to do another one of these webinars. I'm looking towards the beginning of March just because we've had some more requests for learning Outlook and Teams and bookings that we mentioned. So I will be sending out that invite here probably towards the middle of February about that March webinar. Again, be working on looking at Outlook and tagging and organizing your emails, some best practices on how to utilize that. And then just overall overview of Teams and chat and all the other things that you can use Teams for that you may not be aware of. And then for those that are familiar with calendar links, Bookings is a free or included product within Teams and Outlook that you can set up automated bookings for people to view your calendar and set up meetings outside of having you to be interactive with them, or at least even looking at availability of your schedule. So I don't think we have any more questions coming in. Like Rachel mentioned, the recording will be available. I will send out a link to the recording for those that want to share that with other employees within the organization. Otherwise, I don't see any other questions coming in. So we will wrap up this webinar. I want to thank Rachel very much for this presentation. She is very detail oriented and spent a lot of time putting this together. And so I appreciate the time that she did to put this all together for us today. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us here today on this webinar. Again, we'll try to make this kind of an ongoing thing, and hopefully we can help you guys be more efficient in your day-to-day. Any questions that come up out of this, please feel free to email me directly, chris@gotechits.com. Otherwise, if you have a question about setup, you can email support@gotechits.com, and any of us will be able to help out. So thank you again. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.